Hello, hello. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your patience for waiting for the story that I promised to tell you about how my great grandmother met with my great grandfather. The story starts all the way from Nyasaland. Actually, they met in Nyasaland. But this young man by the name of John Edward Stephenson left the United Kingdom, England, in 1896, and he landed in Kimberley in the Cape Colony in 1896. That's when he came to Africa, and he was a teenager, 19, 18, somewhere around there. And so when he landed in Kimberley, he worked a bit there, and then he wanted more adventure. He wanted to go into the territory. When he landed, he was actually working for a man that you may know in history by the name of John Ciseros. Now, John Ciseros is a gentleman where the name Rhodesia is derived from. You know, Zimbabwe used to be called Rhodesia. It used to be called Southern Rhodesia. And Zambia used to be called Northern Rhodesia. Rhodes comes from this gentleman. He was the one in charge of the expansion of the British Empire in Central Africa, and he is actually the gentleman that wanted to build the railway line from Cape to Cairo. John Ciseros. Google it and you'll find out, you'll tell me. So this is the gentleman that my father worked for. John Ciseros was a billionaire in those times. He was owning diamond mines in South Africa, and he was the boss. So he started the town, the country today known as Zimbabwe. It used to be called Southern Rhodesia, and he started the town known as Zambia today, which used to be known as Northern Rhodesia. And then during his time in power, he wanted to unite what is today called Malawi. It used to be called Nyasaland. So there was Nyasaland, Northern Rhodesia, Southern Rhodesia. They became the Federation of Rhodesia and Nyasaland. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is John Ciseros worked a bit in Kimberley, and then he decided to venture out. He wanted to go out into the interior, and in 1898, he was posted to Bulawayo. He worked in Bulawayo for a bit, and he was a telegraphic clerk. He used to write, send, receive telegrams in those days. And then he was so adventurous. He wanted just to go out and venture out there. And I think maybe that's where I get that from. So anyway, he was posted to Blantyre. Blantyre in Nyasaland, that's where he met his first wife, Lottie. Her name was called Lottie or Lona. Lottie Chisimongana, that was her name. And when he was there in Malawi, he got a bout of malaria that almost killed him. And when you read the book, Jungle Pathfinder, or even Chirupula Tales, it tells you in there, when he had malaria, they gave him cachaso. The way he describes it is very, very funny. And anyway, so they gave him cachaso as part of the treatment. And in the morning when he woke up in the hut where he was sleeping, he found that there was a maid, an African girl on both sides, and they had no clothes on. They were hugging him to keep him, because he was feverish. So for him to have the temperature, they transferred the heat onto him. So he never forgot that scenario, even as he grew up. Waking up to find these two young girls all with, bare skin, hugging him to cause healing for him. So anyway, that was one of his experiences. And so he decided to venture out again, to go. He asked for the officers to transfer him, to go and start another post in what is today known as Mukushi. He started that town. So he went to Mukushi. But before I go on to Mukushi, I just want to talk about when he met this young girl, Lottie, in Malawi. She was about to be given out to somebody. I believe if I'm not mistaken, to be sold into slavery, but he was against that. And so he said, no, you cannot do that. Somebody reported to him, and then he says, no, bring that girl. If they're asking for whatever they're asking for, shillings, he paid them some shillings. And the one who brought that girl is the guy that actually found this young girl, because those days there were raids and taking people as slaves. And he found this little girl in the village, which was in ruins, and the baby was crying. He picked up this baby and he took that baby home to his wife. And his wife actually brought up this child until she grew up to be a nice, beautiful girl. And she was taught all the things of African lessons that a young lady is supposed to know. She learned how to, deal with herbs and all sorts, and all the ways of an African lady. So anyway, he paid the price, and the way she was brought to him, the guy that found this girl lifted her up from his house, lifted her up, and just went and put her where Stevenson was, and he paid. I don't know whether it was 12 shillings. He paid something like that. Anyway, when he paid, so this girl started living with him, and he built a shack somewhere behind his cottage. But you know what? She used to come in and then sleep under his bed like a pet. So as time went on, she was still young, but she was a teenager, and you could see from her breast and all that kind of thing. But eventually, people noticed that, wow, this girl is growing very, in the front is growing very big. And they noticed, and they said, Stevenson, what have you done? And eventually, this became my great-grandmother. He married her. He actually fell in love with this young Malawian girl. She was of the Ngoni tribe. So part of me, I'm from the Ngoni tribe, English, Zambian. So I can say it's a triple heritage. I'm from a triple heritage. So anyway, John Edward Stephenson came from Northumberland in England, and he came to Africa as a young man, got Lottie, his first wife, and she got pregnant, and then he left her in Malawi, and he went in Blantyre. He went to set up this post in Mukushi, today called Mukushi. And after some months, he sent for her with the Askaris. The Askaris were the police of the BSA. And they're the ones that used to carry the luggage when they're walking. And they used to walk long distance. Can you imagine walking from Blantyre through the Luangwa Valley, crossing the Luangwa River, and there was crocodiles, there was lions. And when you read the book, The Jungle Pathfinder, it tells you how it was. It was like watching a Hollywood movie, honestly. The way they used to move, there was no roads those days. And they used to just make, with the Askaris, making way through the thicket, through the jungle, the Luangwa Valley, until up to Mukushi. And they used to walk all the way to Ndola. I'll come to that one in Ndola. I'll talk about that. So anyway, so she left this child. When she gave birth, she left this firstborn in Malawi. And according to her, she believed this child was cursed because he was not looking white like the father, So when they collected that, took her to Mr. Stevenson in Mukushi, he says, where's my son? Where have you left my son? And then he was not very happy. She started explaining, no, that child is cursed, is remaining there, is going to be brought up by my stepmother, that woman that brought her up. And so he remained there. But that's a story for another day. This guy grew up, and he was not very happy when he grew up. He came as a terrorist to Mukushi. It's another story for another day. But if you want to ask me questions, feel free to ask me questions in the comment section. So anyway, they ended up having Edward Mason Stevenson, and then they had Ivy, Nelson Horatio, and then Alpha and Omega. So there were 5 kids, but there was one daughter who died. Her name was Sylvia. And then after a while, Lottie suggested to Mr. Stevenson to say, listen, you have another wife. And so he was given a Lala princess from the royal tribe of the Lala. Her name was Bamwapempandika. Bamwapechivale. That was the second wife. And that second wife, he had Otto Stevenson, Tofrida Stevenson, and then Osa Stevenson. Bessie was one of the children. She died with malaria when she was young. And it's another story for another day. It wasn't very nice. He was not very happy what happened. Anyway, so, and then when Mwape Chivale passed away, there was another lady called Impiani, Mwape Mpandika. She was the third wife, and she bore him a daughter, and her name was Ellie Stevenson. So this is just the little story of my great-grandparents, how they met and the life they led during those days. And when you read the book, it gives a description of how it was in Broken Hill, which is today now called Kabwe, and then Kapirimposhi, all those areas, ranges that surround the area. They were elephants, they were wild animals. It was wild. And you know, those days, they could just go in the backyard, shoot one antelope, and they're cooking, they're having a party. So because of that, as time went on, all those animals, they were cleared. And they put reserves like a Fiwe game reserve, the Luangwa game reserves, you know, to preserve our heritage, to preserve our wild animals. So that's what happened. So, and you know, there's a story about my great-grandfather, John Edward Stephenson. He is the one, when you check the archives or you Google it, he is the one who initiated the town of Undola, I believe in 1904. He is the one who started the town of Undola. He started the town of Mukushi. And according to the book, it says that this grandfather of mine was some kind of a mystic guy. You know, when they had problems, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, in the copper belt, they had a copper mine, I think it was a Luansha mine, where people could not go there to mine because they believed there was a big snake which was killing people. So they called him and he did an exorcism and they started using the mine. And, you know, having said that, what I understand, this great-grandfather of mine, he was actually a mason of the highest order, Edward Chirupula Stevenson. And you know, the reason they nicknamed him Chirupula, it means the white man who whips. He was actually the justice of the peace. He was the one who was in charge of the justice of the times. So if somebody commits a crime, they will whip them, you know, and that's how they nicknamed him Chirupula Stevenson. It was a nickname. So he had the farm called Chibefwe Farm, where he used to grow Washington Navel oranges, and he used to export them to actually South Africa. And he wanted to expand his farm, so he got a loan from the bank. And then after some time, he had issues paying it back, and so they took away that farm. So he ended up with a farm that was at Kapirimwandika, which I think it was called Mukushi Farm. So that was the farm. Even when he died in 1957, that was the place where he was. He built his house. It was called the Stonehenge. You will see it in the clips, in the videos. In the video, as the slideshow goes through, you will see the Stonehenge. That was his house he built. And so when he died in 1957, he was actually buried along the Great North Road, just on the roadside. That's where he is buried. I believe he lived until the ripe age of 80 years. So this is the story of John Edward Stephenson, my great-grandfather. And so I want you to enjoy the slideshow. I put the pictures, I put the names and the place. So enjoy. And if there's a family member watching this video and you want to contribute, please feel free. Please, positively. I don't entertain negativity. It's not my thing. So in a positive way, contribute to this by leaving a comment, or if you want to get in touch with me to talk about this, get in touch. So enjoy. Bye. I want to say a very big thank you for your patience and for watching this video. If you like this video, please give it a like, give it a thumbs up, and please leave a comment in the comment section. If you have any question, please leave it in the comment section and I will get back to you. Remember to share the video and also to press that bell icon for more notifications. From me is thank you, and I hope you've enjoyed the artwork. If you need any artworks, please get in touch. God bless you from wherever you're watching from. It's adios amigos, and you'll see me in the next video. Bye-bye.